Couple of seconds or minutes, we'll be joined by our cast for tonight's show. I'm Buddy Martin on the Buddy Martin Show. Glad to be with you for a Tuesday evening edition. We're getting some late reports in from practice tonight. Our guys are kind of straggling in. They'll be joining us and updating us on what they heard today at practice or what they saw at practice. We, of course, are all waiting to see exactly what's going to happen with the running back situation with Montrell Johnson. We understand he was out and about today, but not in pads and did not work out. We'll get the update. Loren Meadows was there. Also, we joined again by Kyle Curtis, who's been out for a while. Hurricaned out for a while, and he's back. Glad to have him. He's working on the series, the Sweet 16, about the 16 teams in the SEC. And then we'll talk to Dan Bond. Dan Bond wrote a piece today about Montrell and about the situation he's looking at now medically. So we want you to join us. Come along and have fun on the program. It's the Buddy Martin Show. We'd like to have your comments. So anytime, any place, right here, no time like the present. Stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama said that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the show. I want to give Fran Transparent a shout out. Had a minor surgery this morning. He'll be back later in the week. And for those of you who missed him on Gator Bait, he'll be running again later in the week and picking up practice. So all the best to the Iron Duke. On the program today, we're going to take a look at what went on at practice today, what little bit we're allowed to see. We had a couple of people there. Loren Meadows, Coach Meadows, will join us shortly and give us the update there. And hey, we only got 25 days to go. I was talking this morning to Shane Matthews on Put Up with Matthews show, which I do every Tuesday morning, and we couldn't believe it was this quick. And so things are moving rapidly. And I'm kind of really interested in the dialogues I've been hearing and the projections I'm hearing from people who are not related or associated with the University of Florida or Gator Bait or anybody here, but a lot of things are trickling in now. I don't want to give you a false hope or create the idea that Florida's this powerhouse. But for some reason, these lists, which I've been reading the last few days, that have projections for teams that have a chance to, yes, win the national championship, Florida's name keeps popping up on them. Now, this is a long list, in some cases, 16 teams, but even then, you wonder where that's coming from. Now, we kind of all have an idea that we know a little bit about things there at Florida. We think they're better than most people think, but we're not projecting they're going to get to a national championship game. But anyway, it's interesting. We had a conversation with Urban Meyer last night. Some of you heard it. By the way, for you guys who come on here and say, who's that guy? I mean, really? You don't know who Urban Meyer is? He just won 2 national championships at Florida in your lifetime in recent years. And so I wouldn't think we forget about him that quick. Like him or not, there's one thing I want to say about coaches. I never let my feelings about a coach, if I like him or don't like him, dictate how I try to assess what they can do. People who follow me know I was not a fan of Muschamp or McElwain. I was of Mullen. I didn't have any special relationships with any of them, but I still tried to analyze what I thought they could do and critique them when they're wrong the same way. So when someone says, I don't like that guy, We don't care who you don't like. It's about the coaching job. It's not a personality contest. It's about, can the guy get it done? And so I've got a very interesting list tonight. I'm going to repeat it about the teams other organizations are saying have a chance to be involved in the national championship picture. I'm really shocked at this, but you'll take it, right? No mentions. Florida being in a very advantageous position of being the underdog, probably in more than half their, well, at least half their games. And we all know about the Bataan Death March, no disrespect to the military or World War II, the schedule the back half, which is going to be the make or break. So enough about that. I like the vibe. I even said today, I talked to Urban last night. He said, I'm hearing there's a very good vibe, and there is a good vibe. So let's don't overblow it. Let's just say it is what it is. Florida is picking up some steam in some areas, but they still got to go and do it. We understand that, but this is what we do. Shane always says, we'll wait and see. Well, you know what? We don't wait and see because on these shows, we talk about what we think is going to happen and then what happened, right? That's what these shows are about. So anybody can sit back after the games have been picked and say, well, yeah, this is what happened. We know that. We want to try to get a projection about the trajectory of our program if we can. Get it? Am I right? But I hope so. And I hope you will join in. We welcome all opinions. We have some people on here who don't particularly like the coach. I mean, I don't care if you like him, but the question is, can you objectively state the situation without coming up with some absurd situation? Comment. Okay, thanks. David loves this opening. By the way, credit to Brendan Martin, who is crawling around on his rooftop with tarps, trying to stop the water from gushing in his roof after having a tree fall on our house in Ocala. Kudos to Brendan, a fabulous job, and still doing the morning show and doing things at Gatorbait. So, yeah, you're right, David is awesome. Brendan Martin did all that. He's a very talented guy. So, yeah, get better fans. We all wish him that, and we'll see what happens. Let's see what else. Yeah, David, that was the guy. I think surely you must kid me. So, yeah, let me get back to my friend Rob Brown, who wants me to send him the link, which I'm going to do here. And in the process, I want you to look at the situation and you tell me what you think these projections are and where they're coming from. And I'm going to show you one in a minute. You'd be surprised at the other schools, where they are and who they are and how they rank and how Florida got into it. It's quite interesting. Let me get this email out to Rob because he's supposed to be on the show tonight as well. He had a very good show today, by the way. Ralph Russo and the guy who does the AP poll, which everybody seems to hate because it makes the picks. So let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of the bite from last night for Urban Meyer. I'll be right back, and we'll have your guest line up for you. Stand by. Program being brought to you by Melda Law. Here's what Urban Meyer was saying last night. Must be football season. I saw this guy once. I haven't seen him in a while. He's in Salt Lake City. I'm in Panama City, and Brendan's in underwater in Ocala. Urban, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. I know there's been a lot of rain. My daughter's dealing with some issues, some flooding in Sarasota right now. So, yeah, prayers to everybody to stay safe.
You know about all that kind of stuff. I know Florida called off their practice, obviously for obvious reasons. Well, Urban, in the short time we got, we love having you on. Let's jump right into it, all right? And I have a lot of questions for you. Brendan probably has one. First of all, can you get your mind wrapped around this football season? I went ahead and look up the teams in the Big Ten today because I forgot who all they were, 18 teams. I think it'd be a good quiz to see how many people could name the teams in the Big Ten, you know?
Yeah, I think when you start, it's amazing to me that the higher-ups have all made these decisions over the last really 10, 15, 20 years. You know, Can you imagine someone sitting in a room and saying it's a good idea for Texas not to play Texas A&M?
Oh my God!
Hey, let's take these 4 teams from the strongest conference in the country last year, the Pac-12, and let's break it up. And I'm feel very strongly about just the collegiate experience for not just football players, but the Pac-12 had the strongest. I don't know if the Olympic teams or whatever the non-revenue sports. There are so many great athletes and great teams and national champions now. That conference is gone. So I'm not saying I disagree with it because I'm not in all those meetings right now. The number one driver is money, which always concerns me when the first thing that comes up is money, money, money. I guess I'm old school and I still believe in life after sport, the collegiate experience, education. And some people look at me and say, well, come on, that's not what it's all about. I'll argue with you and say, it's absolutely what it's all about. Now there are a small percentage of people.
All right, there's an interesting thought to ponder. There's a little bit of last night's interview, and thank you for holding on there. So David Arnoff, that's him. Yes, that is the coach, by the way, who won 3 national championships. I think you must be kidding me, David. You're a smarter guy than that. So, all right, so glad to see some old timers on here in that Blaylock. I haven't seen you in a while. To talk to you, and of course our other friends Michael Burton and all you guys. Stand by. Let's go see if we can find out. We got Rob coming in here. We also got Kyle Curtis coming in. And here's the man of the hour, Kyle Curtis. What's up, Kyle? I remember you. You look the same. Yeah, you're a guy that used to work here.
How are we doing? Good to see you.
We're doing okay. We're scrambling around a little bit with people on schedules, but we're doing good. And I wanted to get with you right off the bat to talk about. Well, first of all, your journey. You've been through a heck of a thing. You and Brendan Martin have been a journey with this whole deal with that you're dealing with the hurricane. But secondly, you've been out a little bit, but you also have been working on a series we call the Sweet 16, which I encourage people to go and look at because you got to remember, this is a harder year to follow the SEC because there's 16 teams. We need to get with it, and Kyle's series is going to help you. So join in and tell them about it, Kyle.
Yeah, so leading up to the college football season, it's kind of Gator Bait's way of doing the countdown to kick off for the SEC. Kind of going down from 16 to 1, ranking all of the worst to first new face of the SEC. Like you said, we've been used to these conferences being the same ever since I can remember. So being able to be familiar with these new teams, being able to be familiar with kind of key players, what their schedule is going to look like, who their rivals are, what their fan base kind of expects. Looking into the season, it's a good change of pace. It's keep your friends close, enemies closer type of thing. So it's a good way to start get back into football mode.
Yeah, I have a list of schools here. Let's bring Rob Brown in here too, from SEC Sidelines. Hello there, Rob. How you doing?
What's going on?
You got to put your ears on. We can't hear you. Your mic is not on. Okay, let's see. Where are you, Rob?
We see you.
We see you, but we don't hear you. You got to turn your mic on. Your audio is not on. Yeah, that's what I've tried.
Hopefully, we'll get him in a sec.
And I'm going back to something I talked about last week. Quadrants. When you look at this SEC picture, I've broken it down. I don't have it in front of me. I just say, all right, what are the bottom 4 teams? And then once you get the bottom 4, you kind of can get the next 4. And it graduates up by tiers. And I think we talked about this when you were on before, but you wind up with probably the teams that should be at the top, which we all know, Georgia, Texas, etc. The only question is whether Ole Miss should be there or who, Alabama, etc. So that's one way of looking at it. But by the same token, I'm really surprised at some of the things I've read and seen in the last couple of days from outside agencies. For instance, like CBS put out let me go get it, put out a projection. Let me find it here, of the teams. Hope I can find it. That they thought there was like 16 of them.
I think I saw that one. They were talking about the team,
Yeah,
the dark horses for the national championship. Is it?
China was one, yeah. And I'm looking to say this is top 16 college football teams that can actually win the national championship. Now I'm thinking they mean this year.
Right.
Okay? So it's no surprise Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, but I don't get where they come in with Texas A&M at number 4. I don't get that one at all.
They're just one of those schools that no matter what, their fan base will buy enough hype around the program and everything like that.
Forget that projection. They got Oregon, okay. Oklahoma, that was probably a little high for them. At number 7 is Texas. That's probably a little low for them. LSU, 8. That's a little high. Notre Dame is always in there. They're at 9. Then they got Clemson, who hasn't really gotten any run at all I've seen. And the number 11 team they have is the Florida Gators.
Yeah, I think I know that exact article. Kind of just being on Gator Twitter, all the sharks on there went right after it. But I don't know. The SEC is going to be really fun this year. I think that especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, it's going to be cool to see how kind of they handle it compared to what it was like in the Big 12 with the run and gun offense. And that was kind of the stigma here the past 10 years is that Texas and Oklahoma and those kind of schools could score with anyone. But can they go against an Alabama defense or a Georgia defense who has 8 or 9 NFL guys on their side? So I think it's going to be cool. But Florida winning the national championship, I know that a lot of people have kind of bought into the hype, especially since I think Vegas had our over-under win total at 4.5. A lot of people have bought into that hype.
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, we got 14 starters returning. It's going to be a more experienced team. You got, I want to say underrated quarterback in Graham Mertz, but really he's starting to become, a national guy. So
let's go back and see if we can get Kyle. Let's see if we can get Rob's audio working. Rob?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey.
Man, I don't know what, sometimes there's alien forces
we
out there
know
working
about
against
the
us.
aliens. We know all about them.
I mean, Kyle,
everywhere.
Buddy and I were abducted one night, late at night, by an unidentified flying object down there in Immokalee, down in the muck. It was crazy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. So you've had it. By the way, nice show today. Ralph Russo for the AP and all that voice, and Johnny Bob Franks. But I want to get to you while Kyle's here because he's sort of formulating his list for his series on the SEC now. And we're got to think more globally. We got 4 more teams in there. I said to Urban today, yesterday, a good quiz might be off the cuff. Ask people to name the 18 teams in the Big Ten. And somebody else knows you got 16 in the SEC. But the difference is we had already the 14, and we know the other 2 that came in. Rob, just a general assessment of the league as a whole, which way they're leaning on things. And you talk to people every day about everything under the sun in the SEC. What would you say? What would you say to Kyle if the trending thing that you see most about anybody, any teams, Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee, whatever?
Well, I had lunch today in Oxford, went down there on the square at the Tallahatchie Gourmet Grill with Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. I will say Ole Miss is embracing. That town is on a mission. The whole state to win big this year, and I think that's something we hadn't seen before. Ole Miss and their collective, they've got over 11,000 people in their collective. They've got billions of dollars from the tobacco settlements. Dickie Scruggs was the lead attorney. His chunk was $700 million. There were 14 other attorneys that went to law school at Ole Miss. A lot of those people live in and around the square in Oxford. So they're starting to feel it. They're starting to embrace this, hey, we got a chance to win big. Also think that you are seeing movement in a positive way for both For Florida, I've seen in the recruiting side, and Auburn the same thing. And I think it's pretty cool if you look in this century, the rankings, how overall Florida and Auburn have recruited. I'd say Florida, I think, would be 8th or 9th, would be their average recruiting class in this century, and Auburn is number 10. So those are two programs that, while they've been down, the mice have been playing. So the trend is some programs that have been out, and the big six since 1963, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU are the only ones that have won the SEC. Two of them have been in timeout for the last 4 years, Florida and Auburn, and they're starting to bring in talent. Now it's just you've got to do it on the field. And the other thing is people don't want to give Missouri the time of day. Damn it, they are serious. They're spending $250 million renovating the rock quarry in that one end zone.
Candy-ass schedule. That's why.
I know they do. hey, there's no question. Look, I grew up with Amen Corner. Auburn, at the end of the year, would play Florida, Florida State, Georgia, and Alabama. How's that? But I do think, too, what I'm hearing that's really crazy, schools are willing to do anything to make money to bridge the gap. Ohio State's going to make about $350,000 this year selling practice passes. So I think anything's possible, but you ain't going to keep Florida down. You're not going to keep Auburn down. And Georgia and Alabama have been on top of the world lately. They can't keep doing that forever. Trees don't grow to the sky. So watch out for these programs that have money that have been down because they're coming back.
All right, Ole Miss might be one of those, but let me just say this. They can't talk out of both sides of their mouth. Yeah. If they're going to have a rating system, it says we reward when you play hard teams.
Yeah.
You can't just overlook some of those lightweight cupcake games people play.
Correct.
And you say, if Florida goes, let's say 9-3, and Missouri goes, if Florida goes 8-4 and Missouri goes 9-3, who's the better team? Look at the teams they played, and so I hope the committee, and I think they will have to, because let's remember, there's 12 playoff spots here.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
maybe be 8-4 and not make it. On the other hand, you could be 8-4 and make it too, depending on who you play. So either they're lying about that, or they're going to tell the truth, Kyle.
That's what I was thinking. I was literally reading through an article, and I'm glad Rob, brought up Ole Miss. I think, that's sweet that you were in Oxford today. But I heard, I had a buddy that went there, and he said that the town is all behind Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I read an article today, and now you kind of got to look at it. It was comparing the NCAA basketball tournament to NCAA football, and kind of how, at the beginning of every tournament, you're picking your Cinderellas or whatever. And I was thinking this year, is it possible that, an 8, 9, 10, 11 seed is going to be able to, make it to the championship game or even the semifinals? And I think that, if an Ole Miss sneaks in and, you have a healthy Jackson Dart who is able to come in there, I think that, he's going to be sitting in the finalists for Heisman by the end of the year. I'm super high on Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that they are good enough on any given day, and I think that their offense is going to be good enough. Honestly, same with Missouri as well. Just teams that are the SEC is so deep that on any given day, I think that they can beat anyone if they do play their best. So I think that's what's going to make it the best about college football this year. And I don't think that you're really going to have a debate now about who is the overall national champion.
Here's the thing, Rob. If you are a team that struggled at the beginning of the year, and then you get down to November with your key big games, and you only say you've lost 3 games, and you knock off the big boys in November, that's going to change some things. So the record itself can't be the one determining factor. It's got to be the quality of the opposition. And we said this how many times, Rob and Kyle? This is big boy football. You're playing against a heavyweight every week almost. You're going to get banged up. You better be able to keep your bodies intact. Conditioning will be everything. And Kyle, from what we're hearing around here, Florida's in great shape in that regard. And I mean physically. and what they're doing. They're leaner, they're meaner, they're faster. At least when they say, I don't know what it means. They say we lost 500 pounds of body fat and picked up 500 pounds of muscle. That impresses me.
Yeah, no, I think the new strength and conditioning coach has obviously been putting in a lot of work, and yeah, it seems to be making an effect. But the main thing for me is I scroll through their Instagram social medias, and just seeing the video and the energy in the locker rooms whenever they're doing lifts or whatever it gives me chills every time. So I think that it's definitely trending in the right direction, but conditioning is definitely, especially with a schedule like Florida has this year, health is going to be at the top of the priority list.
Well, look at those last 5 games.
Let me go get this guy and bring him in here because he's just getting back from practice. Hardest working man in show business right here. And that would be the coach himself, Loren Meadows. Loren, how you doing, buddy?
How you guys doing tonight?
I need 1 second to say we're doing good except for one thing. I've got to say this program is being brought to you by Meldon Law. They won't back down. They do pay good, and they sponsor this program. So I'm going to make sure we get that in there today. We all know what they're known for. Great supporter of the Gators. Jeffrey Meldon there's no bigger fan anywhere, and they put their money where their mouth is. All the things they sponsor and stuff they do. And of course, they also are lawyers. I want to remind folks they have 4 offices now open. Latest one being in Williston, also Gainesville, Ocala, and Lake City. If you have a question about something in your in terms of a suit, or if you have injury law, especially injury, they specialize in that. Give them a call, go online, check out their Facebook page. They're always giving away all kinds of things. Meldon Law, they won't back down. And neither will these 4 guys. And even the coach, Loren, you were at practice today. What did you hear and see?
Just a couple guys were banged up. Obviously, Montrell Johnson was dressed and in a non-contact jersey. I think they had kind of done some things with him a little earlier. I know people were concerned, but he's upright, which is a good thing. Asa Turner. I mean, quite a few guys in Devin Moore were in non-contact type of jerseys. Obviously, they don't discuss the injuries, but I wanted to pay real close attention because I'm writing a story on the linebackers, and a lot has been said about Aaron Childs, and obviously we know about Miles Graham. And the one thing I can say about both of them is they look the part. I mean, Graham is every bit of 230, and Childs is not far behind. And, you talk about Aaron Childs being the player of the year in the state of Maryland, which, is one of those states where it's kind of under the radar as far as football is concerned. But, that's a group that's in need of some quality depth. Guys like Manny Nunnery and Deuce Spurlock. No offense to how hard it is to play Division I football, but they haven't really panned out the way that I think the Gators expected, and kind of become more situational guys. And really returning, you have Shamar James, Nunnery, and Derek Wingo, and they're the only ones that had double-digit tackles in that linebacker group. So, Ron Roberts will be tasked with, getting those guys in gear. But, definitely watch Ron Roberts today with that group. They're sticklers for detail. You could see Wingo and Childs kind of having discussions about technique and things like that. And, that's definitely a group that's got to get better. But,
Childs has a good mentor in Derek Wingo, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And looking at them on the hoof, I mean, they got some guys, so it, when we go out there, we got to make plays. And when I say we, I'm not talking about Florida. I'm just talking about football players in general. We go out there and we got to make plays, when the time comes, and that's what it's going to come. But I mean, you look at a guy like Shamar James, who, is a little undersized the first couple of years. I mean, he's starting to really look the part. He's up around 225, 230. And, you can definitely tell he's a lot more cut in the arms and things like that. And that's going to help him, get some of these big dogs down. I mean, they just have really had a hard time tackling in space and things like that. But I think that's going to improve. I mean, they've made the strides with their bodies. Pup Howard is physically imposing, 6'4", and with 6'4",
that's a great name, Rob. Pup, that's his name.
Yeah,
I love it. Grayson,
you know,
no
with a
buck.
great reach and things like that. I mean, great arm length. So it's going to be interesting. But, you know, I really wanted to check out Aaron Childs and kind of see. And obviously, we don't get to see him play downhill or anything like that. But on the hoof, they got 4 guys that kind of looked the part.
Yeah. Those are names probably you haven't heard a lot about, Rob. I know
I have heard about him. It's the defensive. How did the defensive line look depth wise? The front 7.
Well, I'll let Lauren state that, and chip in there too, Kyle. I think it's better. I think there's some strengths in there. They got a little more depth. Go ahead, Lauren. Yeah. Size it up.
No,
and you
just you know, I mean, from what I've heard, you know, obviously Cam Jackson, Caleb Banks. I mean, Gerald Chapman's got them rolling, man. They're you know, Kelby Collins. You know, you got some guys that there's some dudes now. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
LJ McCray, I heard is a dude as well.
But he's on the edges. So, you know,
right.
I mean, you know, when you talk about just really, I mean, on the edges, I think they're going to be great. They got Sam, they got Justice Boone, but when you talk about the interior, that's where they really have to come a long way. And you know, when you look at Joey Slackman, you're like, okay, maybe. But then, from what I understand, his motor is 100 miles an hour.
He's a football guy.
They need is guys, the guys that are football dudes, and that's where it's going to be. I mean, but I think, you know, as much has been said about the talent on the roster. I mean, Rob, we've said it a million times. I think the disconnect was more an issue than the talent for sure. It was the fact that all 3 levels of the defense never seemed to be on the same page. Yeah. So you throw Ron Roberts in there and the impact that you mentioned that he had at Auburn, I think that, you know, you can have that communication be stabilized. And I think organically that'll allow them to play better on defense.
He's got better talent to work with at Florida than he had at Auburn. Auburn last year, biggest talent gap in 42 years. They took Georgia and Bama to the last play. You got much better talent at Florida. Auburn's getting it back. But I think Ron Roberts, don't blame him for 4th and 31, the gravedigger. But whoever did call that 2-man patty cake, it wasn't even a rush. It's a living brain donor, in my opinion.
Loren called that. He called that.
No, I didn't.
No way.
You ain't got to worry about that. I didn't call 4th. I wouldn't call 4th and 17 in Columbia either, but I digress.
Yeah.
All right. So I know, Kyle, you're out of school now. You're back. You're working out in the real world now, but you still talk to your buddies. Got a couple of guys doing a little bit of work for us, and Lauren's coaching them up. Jack and is one of them. And what are they saying? What are you hearing from your friends who are around the program, Kyle? And what excites you the most?
Yeah, well, right now the main excitement around Gainesville is that first game, that Miami game. I think, you know, that I feel like we say it every year, but there's a lot of excitement this year, especially with, you know, obviously he's not going to play right away, but DJ Lagway, a lot of big recruits who have came in. You know, we got big time transfers and, you know, Kamir Dyke and Pup Howard and, you know, all these different guys on both ends.
The wide receiver from
Wisconsin. Kamir, DK.
No, the other kid.
Badger.
Yeah, Badger.
Oh, Elijah Badger.
Shane told me this morning he betted Elijah Badger and DK would be the 2 starters with Trey. That's what
I wouldn't imagine. Yeah, I mean, Loren would probably know more on his backstory, but I believe that him and Graham Mertz connected. That was his top target over there at Wisconsin. So obviously the Montrell Johnson injury kind of hurt, but it sounds like we escaped kind of a devastating injury, and that he's kind of week to week. So I would expect him maybe to miss that Miami game, and then
I don't think he'll miss that Miami game.
Really?
Shane's going to bet you right now he won't miss. I have we have a story Dan Bond worked on. We got Dr. Pete Delicato, the team doctor who's in semi-retirement now, who says it depends on how they stitch the ligament or what they did with it or cut a piece of it. What they did, the pain tolerance has nothing to do with that. So he says you really can't tell till even the first week or 10 days as to what's going to happen. And so it's just hard, as you know, Rob, it's hard to project on an injury. But it sounds like, from what little we know and what little of information, and Shane says he'll bet anything, he will not miss a Miami game. Which brings up this question. How did Miami get to be a 2.5-point favorite in the Swamp? Somebody please explain that to me.
Florida went 5-7 last year.
Yeah, but what did Miami do?
Played
last year, and they didn't
right,
but I get you.
But buddy,
they
got
the
historically bad defense.
Yeah, okay. And that's yesterday's story.
I know, but you asked me a question. That's why.
They got the top transfer.
That's why.
Hey, listen, tell me about this. When did Cam Ward get to be Johnny Unitas, for crying out loud? You know? Do you know his? I mean, everybody talks about what a great 2 years he had. Was it Washington State? I forget where he was.
Washington State, yeah.
And you know, yeah, he's probably talented, and yeah, but he's coming to the Swamp, man. And look, you can't go by stats early on. His first so-called controlled scrimmage, he was 7 for 15 with 1 fumble and a pick, you know, and maybe 1 touchdown. Those numbers don't impress me at all, and I don't go by numbers this early, but I'm sure he's a talented guy. But look, Florida's got the defense this year. They're going to say, we don't care who you are. Bring it. Let's go get him. Let's get the edge rushers. Put a hand in his face. Get a hold of him. Put the pressure on. Let's see if the creeper defense is really what everybody says it is, or it's just a bunch of perverts out there wanting to do. But the point is, I don't know. I'm just not buying Miami. If it goes off with them as a 2.5-point favorite in the Swamp, I'll be shocked.
Well, how often in the SEC do any of y'all ever see a wide receiver blow past a defensive back? You know, maybe a freshman, but not very often. And that's what he saw in the Pac-12 last year. Best quarterback league in America. But even the poor man's SEC, you know, bottom quadrant, Vanderbilt will have defensive backs. Several of them go to the NFL. I mean, think about it. And last year, the ACC was weak. They were 3-5. There's just a lot of people out there that invest or they pick their teams out of the rearview mirror. And I think that's what they're doing with Miami. Not saying they're not good, but Mario Cristobal, I mean, as much as Billy Napier struggled at Florida, he did win 41 games at Louisiana. And you talk about a guy like Kalen DeBoer at Alabama coming from, you know, Washington, but he was small schools in South Dakota. Well, how about that coach Kansas State got about 5 or 6 years ago from North Dakota State? The last 3 years, Kansas State's won 27 games, a Big 12 championship, and they went to the Sugar Bowl for the first time in school history.
Yeah.
I think you are what you are. If you're good in North Dakota, South Dakota, you can be good anywhere. And, you know, there's a learning curve. But I'm with Buddy. I'm not buying the Miami hype. And I'm not buying the Gator down trend either.
I'm
not saying you're saying that, but the national narrative is Florida's not good. They got 63% talent on the blue chip index. That's the 9th most talented roster in America. Just got to coach them up.
I got on the thing tonight to talk about experience in playmakers, and Florida's like the top of the list in terms of returning experience. I don't know what that means. Let me just get this in here because we're going to bring in a minute. We're going to have our buddy Dan Bond out in Texas catching
in
up.
Dallas.
Yeah, he's in Dallas. He takes a lot of heat out there. I want to tell you, folks, first of all, this program is brought to you in part by TitanMRI.com. If you've ever had to have an MRI, you know what you're always worried about. You don't want to get cramped inside that little cubicle, get claustrophobic. You're always going to take off during the day to go leave your job or whatever, leave your child and go get your MRI. And then you got to get in there and think, well, does my insurance cover it, et cetera. Here's the thing about Titan MRI. They're making it easier and easier for you right there in Gainesville to drive up there and see them. And if you don't have insurance, they'll take a cash or card. It's not like it's terribly expensive. And they'll also make it a comfortable experience for you. And when you get in the MRI, they make their cubicles are set so they have bigger spores in the camera, etc. And on top of that, if you can't go during your office hours, they will custom make you your own appointment, nights, weekends, whatever. You can't beat that. If you need an MRI, go check out TitanMRI.com. Okay, guys, now here's the thing we're going to do. We're going to take, yesterday I talked to Urban and asked him, well, number one, will it ever be this way again in Florida like when you and Steve were here? He said, yeah, it can be that. He believes it. I said, really? I said, I don't think it will be. I think there's, I said, why? Because you've got everything you need here. And you also have, you're right, the recruiting is right in your backyard. You don't have to go across to California to get players. You got talent here, and they want to win, and they got facilities, and they got money. Okay, so that's his opinion. What I'm really shocked at is I saw a couple of polls. I mentioned this earlier. We were just reading them, Kyle and I were, about the teams that have a chance to win the national championship. And what number were they, Kyle? 11?
I think the Gators are at 11.
11. The Gators, okay?
Yeah.
Go figure that one out, Loren. I don't know how it happened. So somebody's getting a whiff of something or smoking something. But the point is they're starting to bubble up as a favorite, as a team that could be a dark horse. So from that standpoint, while you guys think about this, here's the deal. If I said to you, pick me the SEC teams that you have the most realistic chance of winning a national championship in the next, this year or next, who would be on that list? Let's go ahead and put Georgia on there. Let's put Texas on there. All right. Now, who else belongs on that list who has a chance to win a natty this year or next?
Alabama.
Alabama's 3.
And I would say a realistic to win it all.
Yeah.
Who in the SEC? Oh shit!
By the way, I forgot to mention though, the list had Texas A&M as number 4.
Right.
Texas A&M. Okay.
No, I'd say Ole Miss. Those would be my 4.
All right. What about Tennessee?
Nope.
How about Oklahoma?
Nope.
How about Florida?
Nope.
I'm just telling you, these are the teams.
Not in the next 2 years. I would say no.
Ready to win. All right. So I know that it's hard to, but I'm just shocked that Florida was number 11. Weren't you, Kyle?
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of what Urban was telling you yesterday, I can see how people, especially in this new era with NIL, and I really do think that Billy has the program trending in the right direction, both inside of the doors and also outside the doors. And I think those two things are equally as important. Being able to get something good trending on social media, that things are heading in the right direction. Because, that always kind of seems to be the beginning of the end whenever, people start throwing out crazy tweets and all that stuff. It obviously doesn't mean anything, but it's never a good thing to not have the fan base behind you. So I think that, probably we do have the resources. But, like I said, I mean, Rob was mentioning earlier about the NIL that, some of these schools have tapped into. I mean, I don't know if you guys have talked about the Oregon, Phil Knight being able to just kind of basically give them unlimited NIL just because he wants to see a championship there before he passes away. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy world right now.
I think NIL is the Red Elephant Club. Remember this. The benevolent and kind order of the Red Elephants who support Alabama. And Auburn, we know how fine a group the Red Elephant Club is. They came very late, about 6 months ago, to the NIL party. Now they're getting involved. But what's happened at Auburn is their NIL collectives are going bonkers. I talked to one of the guys that runs one of them today, right before I came on the show. There are a lot of people going, I hate NIL. I hate it on principle. And then they're looking at Auburn with 8 of the top 10 players in Alabama. They may get those other 2. Don't be surprised if they don't. And all of a sudden people are going, I should have bought Apple when it was $20 a share. I should have bought NVIDIA at 35 cents a share.
Or Coke when his $2 was about 1924 or whatever it was.
Yeah. NVIDIA before the 10-for-1 split. This is my take as a watching from the outside. Florida is this. It's like Coach Bryant used to say. Remember, buddy? Said if Florida ever gets their act together, we're all going to be fighting for second. Yeah. But the guy that gets left behind, as much as I love Steve Spurrier for what he's done, damn it, Charlie Pell was the guy that got Joe Sixpack in the state of Florida to put on that orange and blue.
He did.
And I just think
you're right. He did.
I just think he gets blamed for a lot of stuff. Trust me. There were 38 coaches that coached with Coach Bryant that went in to coaching. Some of them got in trouble for stuff, but they all won. They all won. Just about every one of them did.
Not the first guy ever cheated in the SEC.
That's right. There have been others. Yeah.
And even Steve Spurrier, who thinks cheating is an anathema, hates it.
Yeah.
If you ever act like you're cheating on the golf course, he'll probably take you over the head with a 5-iron because you didn't believe in it. And he hates cheating. He even says, I don't think they did that much. The only thing they had was the money that the player got for child support. He was going to go to jail, and they nailed him for that. And he said he got it from a person he'd known since he was a kid, a car dealer there. And in the NCAA rules say you can have money from people you had a previous relationship with. This is Spurrier talking now, okay? Anyway, that's the story for another day. Now, all right, let me let Kyle, I've kept you longer than I expected to. You want to add anything before I say goodnight and bring on our buddy Dan Vine here, Kyle? Tell them about the series, what's going to be on next, and
Yeah. So the number 12 of the series is coming out tomorrow. And this one will probably hit a little closer to home than most. So look forward to that. Look forward to that one. Have most of it all wrapped up. Last thoughts are that Florida is a fun team to play on NCAA football 25. DJ Lagway is the he's fun to run around with and stuff like that.
How's DJ look on that game? Pretty good, huh?
So I simmed it. I played. You can start a dynasty and kind of play through. And I think it was his junior year. I wasn't even playing as Florida. I wanted to start as a smaller school and kind of build up my dynasty and bring a school up. I played as James Madison, and it was my third year. And at the end of the year, they have all their awards and stuff like that. And Lagway won the Heisman. And I was like, I sent it to my group chat. I sent it to the group chat of all my friends, and we're like, all right, this is it. Like, everyone saved it. Like, we're manifesting that. So obviously just a video game, but it was fun.
I like it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, and maybe Rob, but no, our game was little men on a aluminum board that vibrated.
It was awesome.
What? And hold on, I ain't that young. I remember that game. I'm not that much younger than Rob.
It's like these guys would come at you like this.
Yeah.
You just look at
That's how John Madden started. Look what he came up with, Madden. So yeah, I mean, I've even played card games where you played, you drew, and you had to call plays, whatever. So this was over my head. I'm gonna let Kyle be the guy who plays this game, and maybe one day teaches me. But
I'll keep winning Heismans with all the Gators. Maybe next.
All right, Kyle. Thank you. Good to have you back, man. Glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Good seeing you, Kyle.
Stuff. Always.
Having you back.
All right, Kyle.
All right.
Yes, sir. Hey, guys.
All right. Our guy's back. We're not as worried as we were. Kyle Curtis was missing in action for a while, and he's not now. All right, let's go see what our buddy in Dallas is doing. Can you imagine a worse place to live right now if you're a Gator fan? Imagine that. Think about it.
In the thick of things.
Let's see what he says about what's it like being behind enemy lines there, Dan Vine.
Hey there. How y'all
Cool.
doing tonight?
What a set. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. We got a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on back there. There's a lot of years back there,
That's right.
when you've been around the block a few times.
I like that.
You got to be kind of careful.
I mean, Yeah, that game is super realistic. If y'all haven't seen any of the clips, I don't
No,
have the
no.
game, but just some of the things I've seen is like, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So kudos to Kyle for going through all those simulations. Is fun to do. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an exciting time. I mean, over here in Dallas, we're excited. Um, where the Oklahoma people seem a little more excited to be in the SEC than the Texas people. I don't hear a lot of from them. Just kind of the usual, we're going to win everything attitude, more or less, that you see there. But I mean, the excitement is there for Florida. I'm excited about this tough schedule. I was looking at, you know, um, third party ticket prices the other day and was noticing Florida was like one of the highest ones that first weekend with Miami in town is looking at 170 to get in the door if you don't have your ticket. Other high ones are obviously Notre Dame at Texas A&M, but then you go over to like Furman versus Ole Miss, your number 6 team in the country, and you can get in there for $5. And
Yeah.
even worse, is Mississippi State. They're selling their tickets for $2. So I mean, I look all down the schedule, and those teams definitely don't have. If you just look at that, the excitement there on tickets. So does that mean they have a lot more tickets? Maybe, but that's definitely that Miami game is the hyped up game. That is the game to go to, and I'm excited to play the schedule. I'm excited there aren't cupcakes, and I'll just go out there and play. And it's gonna be a good thing in the next 2 years. This year,
Y'all
next
didn't
year.
know how smart I was to hire my own guy out in Texas behind enemy lines years before expansion. I signed
right.
Dan to a big contract, NIL contract, 2 years ago, and now he's starting to pay off. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
3 hours from 3 SEC schools now. That's closer than when I lived in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a cool trivia question.
Right. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out here to go to. LSU 6 hours, so it's a good place to be for if you like to go to road games and see all that stuff, which is awesome to go to.
Hell yeah.
We're excited about Montrell getting healthy. We kind of wrote about that, and he's up for the Doak Walker Award. I mean, here's a guy who's quietly, if you include the stats there at Louisiana, I mean, here's a guy who would be like 8th on the rushing list for Florida, and he's on track to be 3rd place behind Emmitt Smith and Eric Rhett, yardage wise. So, I mean, this guy can play. They're loaded on running backs, loaded on wide receivers. Everybody, I always get a little aggravated with the fans who just are like offense. And when we've been preaching, well, it's the defense that's been so bad for so long, and like you said, we've got some Jimmies and Joes finally. So I'm excited to see that defense play. And you've got some on that second, third team of that college football nation preseason SEC. So I'll take any kind of publication if they're calling out some Gators and running with it.
By the way, I just heard from David Whitley, who was to practice, and said they had not started Loren the press conference even yet. That was a half hour ago, so he won't be. What you got?
No, I said I had to roll deuces. That's why I'm here with you.
Yeah,
that's
no,
what they missed yesterday, so they had to make up for missing yesterday. For it's right.
They didn't really have the press, just players, right?
Yeah, it was just
Billy
not Billy, but just gonna have some players. But buddy, if I could throw, I mean, I know Van Der, somebody asked a question, and this was maybe football X and O's. Someone asked if they were putting in a new defense, how they were going to be able to learn it in one training camp. Well, you got to remember that defensive installs go in at about February, and they're able to give those kids tablets and things like that. So whatever changes they may have made under Will Harris, Chapman, and Roberts that may change some communication or the way they call things, the defense is in. Now they're just going out and fine-tuning things like that. But a lot of times, 90% of your install is in, even after spring ball. So, they're here in a little bit, they're going to start concentrating on Miami. So the defense is in, So, I mean, people that are concerned about that, They're not, and it's not a new defense. Will there be some different calls, things like that? But there would have been that if the defensive staff didn't change. I mean, you don't stand pat. But a 3 technique is a 3 technique. A 4-eye is a 4-eye. If you're in a 20, you're in a 20. You know, cover 3 is cover 3. Cover 4 is cover 4. Man to man is man to man. So, you know, those little things like that, don't worry about that. You know, it's going to come down to getting guys on the ground when it comes to the Florida defense, period.
Yeah. Well, everybody seems to be very excited about the season. We can't wait for the SEC media days, and Rob and Brendan were there. And then we get the first practice, and we get that going. We're excited, and then let's see a scrimmage. We want to see what they do, and then we want to start on who's going to be available, who's got hurt, etc. So it's on now. I don't know how we can ever, in our right minds, know anything. You have to sort of intuit. And you have to gauge your palpable feelings about what you think and feel, and without letting your emotions get in your way. And I think, having said all that, what I'm hearing and feeling and seeing is a little bit of an uptick, because Florida fans, they're hungry, but they're also beginning to understand this was not a terrible football team last year. They don't have to tear it down. They just got to build it up. And I think there's some hope on the defense. You just mentioned the coaches as you're taking them off. I think, man, this sounds like a good thing here. We didn't even mention some of the other guys. And I think the defense will be better. We said this before. And like Fran says, you talk about 4 or 5 plays a game, Loren, that could drastically change the outcome of some of these games if they just play smarter and don't make coaching mistakes that they made and play hard. I mean, I'm a big believer in the Steve Spurrier theory. Keep playing hard and something good will happen.
Well, if you give up 3 or 4 fewer first downs per game on defense, look what that translates to. When you put it out there that you're going to suck and that this schedule is just insurmountable, you become what your thoughts are. You got to go back and study Marcus Aurelius, the Stoics, the great philosophers, but it's true. Steve Spurrier, if I'm not mistaken, was big on using sports psychology. He came to Florida. He didn't say, when I get my players here, we're going to win big. He goes, these are my players. They're Gators. I'm a Gator. He won the SEC his first year. I'm with y'all.
They won it in
He
won the most games. He won the most games, yeah. And you're right. What he did was he didn't even think it was psychology. It's just how he believed.
He's the believer.
You bring mine, I'll bring mine, you bring yours, and we'll put the ball down and see who's better. And he knew he had good talent. He knew he had good talent. And I'm really shocked. We talked about it the other night. If he doesn't beat Clemson at Duke, which he did, and I think Clemson was a 22-point favorite, and Steve had backup players playing at key positions, like a running back who played out of his mind, and he gets these big plays. He said, if we don't beat Clemson, I never would have been the coach at Florida. So the flip of a coin, my dad used to always say, to write a book, son, called The Turn of a Leaf. What do you mean? Because the leaf turns over and things change all over. It's like if a butterfly wings flap in Africa, you know what I mean? So I think what Spurrier does is he teaches you to believe in the possibility as being real. And he didn't just sort of make up things. He believes this stuff. And he manifests things. That's why when he started giving players a chance to have goals, they bought into it, and he said it changed everything. So why can't Billy do that? Right?
Yeah, I mean, he came in and was like, the Florida Georgia game, we should be winning that. It's in the place called the Gator Bowl. We take a bus, they take a plane. He was like, we need to be all over that. And it was like years and years of frustration as an older Gator fan, and then went through that long streak of beating Georgia for so many years, and now it's flipped over to the other side. So hopefully that'll become a focus too. Once you start beating Georgia now, you're in the talk.
Yeah. Guys, great job, and thanks for joining the program. Rob, who you got on your show tomorrow?
Gonna bat lead off with Ron Higgins, great sports writer. He loves you.
I love Ron Higgins. He's a heck of a writer.
He think you're one of his favorite people. Shreveport Bossier Journal, and then Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, and Brendan Martin, the son of Wilton. So we're gonna have some fun.
I'm known as Brendan Martin's dad now.
You're Wilton. Dan, I love the Gator suit out there in Dallas. I met Dan out there at Media Days. How about Nacho Alabama, the guy with the Alabama serape and the sledgehammer, which was a block of cheese that said rat poison on there. You can't make this stuff up.
Great to meet you in the flesh, finally.
That's right. I loved it. It was great. Lauren, loved having you on there last week too, man.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, thanks a lot for everything. You guys did a great job. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having us, man.
Have a great night. We'll do it again soon. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night, folks. All
All
right.
right, guys.
Good night.
See you, Dan.
See y'all. Take care. All right, John Boy.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap it up with our message from Rentstar, very special people that we'd like very much to tell you about. They do a good thing. They number one, our stakeholder in downtown Ocala, have been for a while. Their roots run deep. The people who founded the company are Mary Brantley, the wife of Scott Brantley. Now she wasn't when she founded the company, and Joe Sorrentino, whose son Joey played for Urban in Florida, and they're big Gator fans. And besides that, they are very smart people. They found out that the best thing we can do for medicine is you have to have clinical trials, and because that gives them data they can apply to these formulas that these companies make these prescriptions. We have more from our area. It's more indigenous to us. So they say they'd love to have you take part in one of these clinical surveys, and you do it by signing on to rentstar.net. They've had over 800 of them. They have all kinds of things, from migraines, you name it. They have them. If you qualify for it, you have to qualify. No charge to your insurance or anything. You will also get special medications that are investigational, and you might get some pieces of equipment as well. So anyway, we encourage you to go to rentstar.net. They're good people. They're doing good stuff, trying to make us healthier and better, and they do a terrific job. Our thanks to the folks at Rentstar. Thank you for our guest tonight. It was good to see Kyle back. He'd been out for a while. And of course, you saw the rest of the guys there with Loren Meadows, the Rock himself, and Dan Bond out in Dallas, and of course Rob Brown, who does SEC Sidelines. On behalf of them and our sponsors, I appreciate you watching and listening. We're back tomorrow night with Allie Pete Wilbur. You won't want to miss that show, and whatever else is going on in the world of sports in terms of the Gators and SEC football. Enjoying the Olympics. Didn't talk about them tonight, but a lot of good stuff happened today. Love some of the performances by our athletes today. It was fun to watch. It's always fun when the United States wins the goal as they did. All right, folks, have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow night.